You see a camp with a wagon and 2 people on the edge of the path. Behind them, Black Saddle towers up above a thick, dark forest, about a half a day's journey away. You don't want to give them a shock, so you address them while you're still a distance away.
Hello, friends. Is there any space by your fire?
The 2 traders look up and visibly jump when they see you 3 dwarves.
Ah, hello. Yes, of course.
It doesn't escape your attention that you seem to be causing the traders some uneasiness, but you take up their offer and sit down. The twins follow your example.
We're only travellers. We're looking for someone who's said to live on Black Saddle. A hermit.
Someone who lives here?
The traders exchange amazed looks.
If they live here, they must be mad.
Normally we wouldn't stop and rest here, but the horses are too exhausted. Our departure from Parista was delayed and we must have driven them too hard.
Why does Black Saddle make you feel uneasy? It doesn't look particularly inviting, but it's only a mountain.
Only a mountain? You don't know the legend.
The trader looks at you and the twins for affirmation, but you all shake your heads.
Black Saddle was once known as Cloud Piercer, and it towered up into the heavens, the upper slopes of pure gold and the summit covered in snow. The humans wanted to attain this wealth, but the smooth slopes and the dazzling summit made the climb impossible. They called on the dwarves to help them. They were able to tunnel up through Cloud Piercer to the top. They hollowed it out and carried away the gold. The humans demanded that the treasure be shared, but the dwarves refused, and as they argued, the mountain began to tremble. There were too many holes inside for it to hold together. It collapsed and buried both greedy parties underneath it. The mountain lost its tremendous size and its beauty, and ever since has haunted both humans and dwarves with its erosive hatred, causing even the rocks to turn black over time.
Pfft, never heard of it. Sounds like human tittle-tattle. Dwarves would never hollow out a mountain so much that it collapses.
You come from Parista. How are things there?
No news to speak of, I'd say. Well, except for Nudin the Knowledge Lusty.
You know Nudin the Knowledge Lusty. Lot Yonan introduced him to you many years ago during a visit.
What about him?
Oh, nothing really. Just rumors.
You nod at the trader to continue.
He's behaving strangely and disappears into his tower for days on end.
Merely looks ill, apparently. Well, that's what someone I know said. Perhaps he got a spell wrong.
Later in the night, after eating together and some friendly conversation by the campfire, you all decide to sleep. But you take the first watch. It's a night in which nothing happens, and the next morning the traders set off early. After breakfast, you also continue on your journey. After a march through the thick pine forest, Black Saddle, the sinister tabletop mountain, and your journey's destination rises up before you.
Are you sure that the Famulus lives here?
Yes, according to Lot Yonan.
Although you try to put a lot of assurance into your voice, you too see no signs that anyone lives here.
No castle, no tunnel, no camp. There's nothing here but mountain.
Then we'll have to take a closer look.
You do that, scholar. We'll be waiting for you here.
You think about objecting, but it would just be a waste of breath.
Even the dark, evergreen forest seems to be afraid of the Black Mountain. An old tree. Looks like it could fall down at any moment. There we go. Too steep. I can't get a grip anywhere. I should be able to get up here. Phew. That was close. I hope this is all worth it. Here's a... No, forget it. There's something engraved on it.
You realize with surprise that they are runes in the Dwarven language.
Built with the blood of our enemies, be unyielding as the rock, and soak the land in their blood. Huh? Hello? Master Garen? Lot Yonan sent me to bring some items back to you. My inquiries are almost at an end. That means I can finally go to be with my sunshine. I have never been to Greenglade, but I think I will like it there. I deposited my most valuable things in the grave of Horengarth before my departure and secured it with magic. The password is...
You recognize the following words as rune names, but they're written in the learned language, so you don't know which they are.
Greenglade. Oh, great. Useful. An eternal flame. I know who taught him that.
You see sketches and notes on the architectural features, statues and wall reliefs. It seems Garen spent a lot of time studying this place.
Maybe he's a kind of a dwarf historian, or maybe he's just a treasure hunter. Hello? Is anyone there?
It looks as though Garen lived in the fortress for a while. It also seems that he left several lunar orbits ago.
He's not stealing. It would just be a shame if the provisions went off. Born of stone, forged in battle. Arise, reborn from the blood of the enemy.
You're not sure if you really want to know what was once in this basin. The whole place gives you the feeling that a decent dwarf shouldn't hang around too long.
Thirdlings, the fortress belongs to the dwarf haters. Lorimber's dwarves are not only as unyielding as a mountain, they are also as destructive as an avalanche, and would batter into lesser kingdoms just as relentlessly. The Four should find no salvation in Vracus, only eternal damnation, so that they suffer indescribable torment between the worlds.
You have heard of the dwarf haters, but this is the first time you have read their hateful words. You feel sick and turn away.
A rune, clearly magical. Graves. Could be buried here. Ah! That's it! Garen's most valuable belongings. Letters from his lover, a silk scarf that must have belonged to her, and a medallion.
A series of weapons that are all clearly of dwarven origin. The spider webs and rust suggest they have been here for quite a while, maybe even centuries.
Lorimber, the progenitor of the Thirdlings.
In most of the chronicles about the 5 dwarfen kingdoms, only very little is written about the Thirdlings, and what is written is full of disgust. They are called traitors, or worse. It would seem that even the Thirdlings worship Vrakas, but in all the other kingdoms his shrine would be the biggest, not the statue of the kingdom's progenitor. A couple of gold coins are in the bowl in front of the shrine.
Can't do any harm. Goren is in Greenglade to visit his sunshine. Greenglade is in Gauragat. We can't have fallen in love with a pointy here, can he? Definitely a rock face.
So, Scholar, what are the results of your inquiries?
There is an abandoned fortress in the mountain, and I think it belonged to the Thirdlings.
Boindill's eyes narrow.
The blasted dwarf killers!
A Thirdling fortress? Here? In the middle of Girdlegard? We must let High King Gundrabur know about this.
The fortress has been long abandoned by the looks of it. Anyway, I can't go to Ogre's death until I have completed my quest. Goren is in Greenglade.
Huh.
A Thirdling fortress? Here, in the heart of Girdlegard. That's strange, isn't it?
And worrying. But they've always been wily. They move in the shadows and kill there too if they can. Do you know their story?
I've read about it. Lorenberg, their progenitor, rejected the name that Vrakas gave him, who in turn did not give him any special talent, so his kingdom studied war.
It helps them defending the East, but it also meant they ended up confronting the other kingdoms. No dwarf would ever even think of injuring one of his kind, never mind killing them. But the dwarf killers are proud of it. When they were even more powerful, they wanted to become the rulers of all dwarves. They are envious of our skills. They haven't been heard of for a long time, but you can be sure there isn't a single dwarf alive who doesn't hate them.
The High King, why do you want to bring me to him?
All right then. It's about the choice of the new High King. Gandagar, the king of the Fourthlings, is with his entourage in Ogre's death and is supposed to ascend the throne.
But our acting High King Gundrabur wants to prevent that from happening. He fears that Gandagar wishes to instigate a war against the elves.
But what have I got to do with that?
Boindill is about to say something, but is silenced by a nudge in the side from his brother.
High King Gundrabur will explain everything when the time comes.
You look distrustfully from one twin to the other. Boindill has donned an innocent expression, and Boendal doesn't give you the impression that he has anything else to say on the matter.
What does this King Gandagar have against the elves?
Dwarves and elves just don't get along. Vrakas and Satalia made us that way.
I know that, but going to war for just that, after all this time?
Well, there must be more behind it. They say that the king of the Fourthlings is full of hatred and is a hothead in this matter.
Whatever, your High King must wait. I have a quest to carry out in Greenglade.
But our quest is...
Boindil raises a placatory hand and throws his rucksack onto his back in preparation.
Let it be, dear brother. Look at him. He has made his decision, and you will not be able to change his stubborn dwarven mind.
You can't help but smile. You approach Scalebrook through its expansive fields and spot smoke rising up into the sky. A short while later, you can hear the cries of battle, and finally you can smell the tallow on the orc's armor. Scalebrook is at war.
Quick! We have to help those people!
Huh? And again. I didn't hit you very hard.
Find somewhere safe to hide. We'll come back for you once we've saved the other villagers.
What is it?
Huh? Pow! Another one bites the dust. I didn't hit you very hard. All right.
Huh? At once.
And what now? Of course! That's it! They're fleeing!
I don't think so. They're just rallying.
And that's what we should do too. Come on.
Thank you so much. You saved us.
Not yet. The orcs are rallying. You must join us.
But we can't.
You must. Here they come. Yes?
What is it?
Yes?
Huh?
Huh?
I didn't hit you very hard.
What is it? Who's next? I'm not mad, right?
Another one bites the dust. I didn't hit you very hard.
They put up a fight.
I need help over here! Quickly!
Who's next?
I didn't hit you very hard.
Huh?
Pow! Another one bites the dust.
Yes, yes!
While Boindil still hunts the last of the orcs through the alleyways of the village, you and Boandal are already helping search for survivors. Various villagers, all with shocked, ashen faces, come and thank you for saving them. A middle-aged man nervously steps from one foot to the other and tries to force a smile.
My father, the village elder, he is dead. I think I must follow in his footsteps, so I thank you in the name of Scalebrook. He left behind some gold as a dowry for my sister. She's...
The man bows his head, produces a leather pouch, and kneads it with trembling hands.
If only you'd come earlier.
But before you can reply, the man takes a deep breath and forces himself to look at you.
What am I saying? How ungrateful. Thanks to you, many of us are still alive. My daughter may be able to marry one day, thanks to your bravery.
The man hesitates briefly, then thrusts the leather pouch towards you.
We won't accept your gold. Bury your dead, rebuild your village, and be a good father to your daughter.
Boendar looks at you, and you think you can see an approving nod. The man opens his mouth to say something, but then he just shakes his head and finally starts again.
I thank you, dear sir, but there is no way I can let you go with empty hands. Here, take this. My father bought it from a trader, one of your kind.
By the evening campfire, Boindil rummages around in his rucksack and pulls out a cheese wrapped in a cloth. He sticks a fist-sized piece on a spit and grills it on the fire.
There's nothing better than grilled cheese at the end of a long day.
The smell it gives off makes you hold your breath.
Oh, it smells like my socks after weeks of marching in my boots.
Oh, picky, are you? Hardly surprising, considering you were brought up by humans. It's ruined your taste.
Boindil holds the stinky cheese at the end of the stick under your nose.
Eat, and stop complaining.
You pull the warm piece of cheese from the stick. It tastes dreadful. Your fingers will smell of it for the next few days, and probably your mouth will too. While taking a rest, you see a cart trundling along the road not far away from you. A young couple are sitting on the box seat, clearly in love and more interested in each other than the rest of the world around them. The sight reminds you of a long, unanswered question.
So, I was wondering, what do female dwarves look like?
Pretty. Very pretty.
Uh-huh.
You were expecting a little more information.
Do they have beards?
No, I would say it's more like fluff. Oh, very attractive.
And what do they do? I mean, are they warriors too?
In our kingdom, most take care of domestic life. They take the animals down to the meadows in the valleys, make sure the larders are full and that there's plenty of good beer, and make our clothes.
It only ever causes problems when men and women stand shoulder to shoulder in battle.
Some of them are talented stonemasons and smiths, and beware of insulting their skills. They are no less proud than we are.
The closer you get to Parista, the livelier the streets become. Many of the large buildings in the city are even taller than the high city wall. But one building towers above them all, the palace. Its dome gleams white in the sun. It is the seat of the Council of Magi, and its central tower, which juts high into the sky, serves as a waypoint for travellers as far as 50 miles away. You reach the council's palace, but are stopped in front of its gates by a guard.
The Council of Magi is convened to take care of the perished land. They mustn't be disturbed.
The perished land? You mean the barrier? Is there something wrong with it?
The guard shrugs his shoulders.
Won't be anything the Council can't sort out.
The hamlet of Sungird certainly lives up to its name. You arrive as the sun sets behind the tower of a Palandial temple, lighting up its stained glass. There's a shop in the village, and through the window, as well as some everyday objects and food, you also spy a shelf full of books. A small bell rings as you enter the shop. The twins look around, but seem rather disinterested, until they discover a couple of gemstones on display. On the wall to your left is the bookshelf you saw through the window. It's quite unusual for a village shop to sell books. You stroll towards the bookshelf and read some of the titles written on the spines of the books. You know many of the works from Lot Yonan's library.
Oh, by fracas, look, dear brother! The scholar really is looking at books!
It's an interesting selection, Boindle. I could make some recommendations for you.
Boindle throws his arm around your shoulder and pulls you slowly away from the bookshelf.
What if someone sees you? Here, this is more our kind of thing.
You follow him reluctantly and are shown the selection of gemstones. Boindle is walking next to you in silence. Now and then he looks at you from the side.
And you really do like books?
Yeah, I'm curious. And you could find many answers in books.
Won't you have found all the answers at some point?
Quite the contrary. The more books you read, the more questions you ask.
Ah, I knew it. Oh, just a waste of time.
You approach the village and can tell even from far off that something isn't right. The smell of burnt wood and death is in the air.
By Vracus.
The piggies have really shown those pointy ears. We couldn't have done it any better.
Stay alert. I want to find out what happened to Goren.
The hand that painted this picture was that of a master. It is composed exclusively in shades of red, but every single little detail is painstakingly and precisely reflected. Trees, the remains of buildings, bodies. You hesitate.
This picture portrays the village in its state of ruin.
Examining the canvas more closely, you realize that it is actually made of skin, and the red paint seems more than suspicious now.
This is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen.
You have read about the elves and their buildings. This here had always just been a small example of their architectural skill, which achieved perfection in Alandur. Now burning and ruined, the pavilion makes an even sadder impression.
Hoofprints! Burned into the ground!
Alfar?
The fire in Boindle's eyes flares up with delight.
Huzzah! That would make a change from those stupid peggies. Did you hear that, brother? We might get to test our blades on Tion's pointy ears.
Green Glade was one of the few places in Girdlegard where humans and elves live together. You don't see any elven features among all the faces contorted with pain and fear. You look away. The body of the man is riddled with arrows and is lying in a small patch of undamaged ground, while a sea of flames must have raged in a circle around him. The robes remind you of those of Lot Yonan's famuli. This, plus the fact that the man used magic, makes you quite sure that this is Garen.
Garen had these books on him when he was attacked. Was he trying to bring them to safety?
Your eyes fall upon a sealed letter next to the books. The circumstances seem grave enough for you to break the seal.
Greetings, Turga. I am glad to hear that you finally wish to confide in Lot Yonan. I have found out something new about the demon. It's all written in these books. I think they are the key to his destruction, or I hope so, at least. Yours faithfully, Garen. What demon are they talking about?
You instinctively think about how the magical barrier is only a few days' march north of here, and beyond it, Varakas only knows what kind of creatures live in the Perish Land. The smell of the smoke has accompanied you for a while now. But here, so close to the bodies, it is masked by the sweet smell of death. You have a bitter taste in your mouth and have to pull yourself together to avoid vomiting in disgust. The elf maiden's graceful snow-white face still radiates beauty, in terrible contrast to the rest of her appearance. From the neck down, she is nothing more than a blood-red, damp and glistening skeleton. There are long nails sticking through her thin bones, and where her beautiful eyes once were, are now gaping black holes. In your imagination, you see the Alfar's shadow mare standing around the Lady of Greenglade, devouring her, while she, nailed to the tree, squirms and screams in pain. You quickly put your hand over your mouth.
You destroyed my painting. Now I need fresh blood to paint a new one.
Huzzah! This will be fun! We finally get to fight!
I hope your blood doesn't clot too much. It has to be nice and fluid for my fine brushstrokes.
Ha! How do you plan to defeat us, pointy ears? There are 3 of us!
Oh, only 3. That makes it easier.
She looks over the corpses.
Otharin Lueth Buanre!
What's happening?
That's the perished land.
Impossible. Greenglade is south of the barrier.
I know of nothing else that can resurrect the dead. Knock their heads off or they'll keep coming back.
Yes! And what now? What is it?
creature.
And what now?
Yes?
Yes! Don't rush me! He hardly put up a fight!
Kill!
Too easy! Who's next? Pow! Another one bites the dust! He hardly put up a fight! I'm not that! I didn't hit you very hard! Huh? I need help over here! Quick, what is it? Yes, yes!
They're hitting me pretty hard! Huh?
He hardly put up a fight!
And again! I can't do that yet!
Who's next?
Please wait a moment!
What is it? I have bow and dart. Give me a hand. Huh? I'm not that quick. Ow! Another one bites the dust. He hardly put up a fight.
Huh? And again!
I have bow and dart. Give me a hand. Hard.
Vile creature!
He hardly put up a fight. Huh?
Huh? Killed!
Dwarves, you protected the glade. The perished land. The barrier has fallen.
You can feel your stomach cramping. Unlike Boindale, you can't say a word.
The damn mage, I only had one job!
So this is what it is like to rise from the dead. I feel nothing. I am left with nothing. My love, my beauty, my home, and my forest. Everything has been taken from me. I beg you, have mercy and put an end to my suffering.
Without even being able to look into her eyes, you recognize the sadness in the elf maiden's expression. The dignity that she must once have radiated can only be imagined in her current state.
Garen was here, and I've heard that you elves have special abilities in battle. Did the Alpha take you by surprise in your sleep?
I felt her presence, but when I confronted the elf, she had already killed the first of us and resurrected the perished land. It fills humans and dwarves with a hatred for life. It turns you into beasts. They charge through the village like a fury, and everyone that they killed became one of theirs.
If the perished land spreads further south, then Nod-On won't need any orcs, ogres, or Alfar. One human losing their life in the perished land would be enough for the madness to sweep through the land like the plague.
Your stomach turns, but you know that it's right. You've never seen the twins looking so serious. They would pit themselves against any army of orcs, but this is something beyond their power, and yours.
We need the Magi. They must rebuild the barrier. We must go to Lot Yonan before the Perish Land spreads further. He will know what is to be done.
Neither of your companions objects.
I can't believe it. The barrier has fallen. How could that happen?
Who could tell? Anything could go wrong with all that hocus-pocus.
It had held back the Perish Land since the fall of the Fifthlings. Reinforcing the barrier whenever it loses power is the primary duty of the Great Magi. I can't imagine how Nodon or anyone else could have broken through it.
You think of the demons mentioned in Garen's letter. You wonder whether it could be possible that a demon from the outer lands might possess powers so great that even the 6 Magi weren't ready for it. Every evening since you left Greenglade, you have looked at Garen's books and tried to prize out the knowledge that they hold. But now, you must admit to yourself that you can't decipher them. They are written in the learned language for High Magi, and Lot Yonan didn't teach you that. However, you're sure that the books are important. Why else would Garen want them sent to Turga the Fair-Faced? You put them away with a sigh, and your eyes remain on the bag that Lot Yonan gave you. Did Garen ask Lot Yonan to return the magical artifacts in the pouch? You pick up the pouch and look at it.
Lot Yonan forbade me from opening the pouch.
The hamlet of Sungird certainly lives up to its name. You arrive as the sun sets behind the tower of a Palandial temple, lighting up its stained glass. There's a shop in the village, and through the window, as well as some everyday objects and food, you also spy a shelf full of books. A small bell Just like previous nights, you are haunted by the image of the elf maiden nailed to the tree in Greenglade. You wake from your sleep and look around you. The night is unusually dark. Despite your good dwarven eyes, you can only make out Boendal's outline, even though he's keeping watch only a few steps away. You're about to lie down again, but suddenly feel something cold against your throat. Next to you, the pale face of an elf slides into view.
Good evening. I'm afraid we missed each other in Greenglade, so my companion had to receive you on her own.
You don't have much experience with Alpha, and only want to act when you're sure that it will achieve something.
Don't worry, I won't kill you. Not yet. Do you know what I am going to do instead?
You feverishly search for an answer, but you can't even imagine how an Alpha thinks.
I will kill everyone who means anything to you.
I will destroy your life, and you will sink into hopelessness, groundling. Your downfall is called Syntheras.
You tense your muscles, readying to defend yourself, but suddenly realize that the blade against your throat has disappeared. You look around, astonished. The Alf is nowhere to be seen. You look over to Boendal, who is easy to recognize in the bright moonlight. Next to you, Boindil smacks his lips in his sleep. You touch your throat, and when you don't feel anything, you breathe out, relieved.
Just a nightmare.
At least that's what you tell yourself. But you don't close your eyes for the rest of the night. Boindil unwraps his dwarf cheese again and cooks it on the fire. When he offers you a piece, you take it.
I knew we'd make a dwarf of you in the end.
You chew on the cheese so you don't have to answer. It tastes better than you first thought. You arrive at a small, bustling village. One thing is clearly missing from the lively scene: the sound of metal on metal from the village smithy that would normally be heard above everything else at this time of day. A dour, grim-looking man is sitting in front of the forge with his right arm in a sling. His expression brightens as he sees you, and he jumps to his feet.
Dear dwarves, could I interest you in helping me in my workshop for a day?
The man's expression is somewhere between desperation and hope. As you don't answer immediately, he continues.
You will, of course, be royally rewarded for your work. I can offer you 100 gold pieces.
What happened to your arm?
A stupid accident. A box of blanks fell down. I was trying to catch it. It will heal, fortunately, but I won't be able to wield my hammer for a while.
You must have quite a backlog of work.
You nod sympathetically. You always felt bad if you were ill or couldn't work in the forge for some reason or other.
Loads. But if what I hear about the metalworking skills of the dwarves is true, it will be easy for you to manage it in a day.
I'll help you. I worked in a forge for a while.
You modestly conceal that in this case, a while means almost a whole human lifetime. A little later, you are standing in the workshop, examining the smith's inferior tools, while he fires up the forge and prepares everything for the job as well as he can with just one good arm. You weren't able to persuade the twins to help you. As warriors, they'd rather go hunting, Boindil declared. But you think it's more probable that you'll find them drinking beer. But you don't care. You're excited about being able to smith again after such a long time. Hours later, you have forgotten everything around you. The heat of the forge, the sweat on your warm skin, the play of the flames. You're in your element and work as if in a trance. The smith left the workshop ages ago with a satisfied grin on his face.
Wait, I'm talking to you.
You look up in surprise. Everything but the beating of the hammer had ceased to exist, and you didn't notice that someone has come in.
Can you do it?
You immediately dislike the middle-aged man. He sounds you out so doggedly with his light grey eyes that it feels as though he wants to look right through you and into your deepest thoughts. The man points to two horses.
Those two, in 1 hour.
These two need shoeing. No problem.
The man doesn't look convinced, but you get to work with confidence after examining the horses' hooves. Two more armed men are standing next to the horses, sizing you up. You concentrate on the work. The only sound you hear is the melodic beat of the hammer against the anvil. You keep track of the armed men out of the corner of your eyes. You suspect they are mercenaries. While you're fitting the third horseshoe, another armed man enters the forge and speaks in hushed tones with the leader of the group.
He's the only one here.
The man nods in your direction, and you quickly shift your attention back to the work. You play it cool and complete the work. As the leader of the mercenaries pays you, you have the feeling that he is trying to transfix you with his eyes. The men leave the workshop without a word.
So, you're mercenaries, I take it?
You're only trying to engage in conversation, but the man looks at you incredulously, as if he didn't expect dwarves to be able to talk.
Something like that.
Got lots of work? Oh, do you know anything about the armies of orcs from the south?
We can't complain.
The man's tone makes it clear that the conversation has ended here. You carry out the work in silence. As the leader of the mercenaries pays you, you have the feeling that he is trying to transfix you with his eyes. The men leave the workshop without a word. The men join a larger group of horsemen, more than a dozen, outside the village. You stay hidden and listen.
Not here in the village. Go. Search the road between here and Clintarligan.
The other mercenaries nod and the group rides off. You can't make head nor tail of what's going on here, but you don't like it. You tell the twins about your encounter, and they decide to be especially vigilant over the next days. You spend the night in the smith's house and move on the next morning. In the early evening, you make an unusual discovery on the side of the road. A colourful trader's wagon has been carelessly abandoned, with not a soul in sight.
I don't like the look of this one bit, Boindil. You take a look around there, I'll stay on this side. Tungdil, you check the surrounding area, and be careful.
The wagon itself isn't damaged, nor is the drawbar, but the belts and leashes that normally hold the draft animals have been cut clean through. You can see a lot of tracks in the mud around the wagon, hoof prints and footprints from humans in heavy boots. At least half a dozen long ones must have approached the wagon from the woods on both sides. You scan the road and the woods on both sides. Apart from the twins who are fighting their way through the undergrowth within earshot, you can't hear or see anyone. The dwindling daylight provides little light inside the wagon. It smells of leather, spices, and candles. And there's another smell in the air, which you can't quite place. It reminds you of your forge in Lot Yonan's vaults, but different. It is messy, but no more so than you would expect from a single dwarf. The bed is rumpled, and there are tools and leftover materials piled up on the little workbench. There are several cupboards hanging on the right-hand wall. At the end of the wagon, there's a large wardrobe, and next to the door on the left is a heavy wooden chest with rusty metal hinges. The smaller cupboards are piled high with a multitude of tins and boxes, all filled with odds and ends that the trader offered for sale to customers on his trips. Nothing of real interest. You reach for the knob of the wardrobe, and then stop. The rug in front of the wardrobe squelches as you step on it, as if you had stepped in a puddle. You try to work out what has soaked the rug, when suddenly the door of the wardrobe springs open and something bounces into you. You take a step back, and the realization of what hit you makes you take two more. Lying on the floor in front of you is the body of a dwarf, headless. His head has been cut clean from his neck. The dwarf is wearing clothes that look more like human robes and bears no coat of arms that would identify his kingdom. You didn't know him, but no one deserves to die like this. His head is being cut off cleanly, probably with a sharp blade. A quick glance in the wardrobe confirms what you already suspect. The dwarf's head is nowhere to be seen. As you try to lift the lid of the chest, you realize that the lock has been broken out of the wood. You open the lid and look inside. Amongst clothes and some empty boxes, you find a loot case and a beautiful loot of the kind that humans build, as well as a bag of bread, and cured meat. You take the bread and the cured meat. The extra provisions should keep you going for a few days. You take the lute. You can't play, but an instrument like this is worth good gold. You give a short, sharp whistle, and the twins come running at the double. You tell them what you found.
A group of horsemen with heavy boots has been here. I found Mort in the wagon, beheaded. I have a hunch that the mercenaries from Fallow Rock have something to do with this.
Wretched dwarf killers!
You can tell that Boindil wants revenge and can understand his feelings well. You wrap the body in linen, dig a hole in the woods, and place the body in it. You lay a couple of his tools and other personal belongings you found in the wagon next to him. You wish there was more you could do for him. You continue on your journey in gloomy spirits. You come across an orchard next to a farmstead and surrounded by several fields of wheat. You don't see anyone working in the fields, but there's a young man lying under an apple tree. He has his legs crossed and a straw hat is covering his face.
Excuse me, but we're looking for a group of mercenaries. Have they passed by here?
The young man is startled. He must have nodded off. He looks around anxiously. When he sees you, the fear disappears from his face and is replaced by curiosity. It seems to you that the man is sizing you up.
And if I answer, what's in it for me?
You take 30 gold pieces from your pouch and hold one of them up so that it glints in the sun.
How about this?
A wide grin spreads across the young man's face.
Now we're talking the same language, dwarf. I saw them. A big group, a dozen or more. They're out northwest.
Northwest, you say?
You nod and throw him the gold coins. The young man pockets them and lies down again. Boindil and Boindal give each other meaningful glances. The first thing you notice as you enter the village of Clintal is how quiet it is. There is hardly a soul in the streets, and the few people you do see immediately disappear into their houses as you get closer. Boindil draws his axes, and Boindal his raven's beak.
Something's not quite right here. Be alert.
You walk on until you reach the village square. Without a word, men enter the square from the left and the right, cutting off your way. You recognize the leader of the group of mercenaries, looking you over with a satisfied expression. Standing next to him is a frail man with greying hair, who doesn't seem able to cope with the situation. He tries several times to say something, but can't find the right words.
Are you going to kill us, just like you killed the travelling trader?
The leader of the mercenaries shakes his head sadly and seems shaken.
You fiends want to lay the blame on us, you damn murderers!
Murderers? Come here, dwarf killer!
Are you denying your terrible deed? You were seen murdering poor old Mort, one of your kind, in cold blood.
The old man points unnecessarily to the leader of the mercenaries.
We are not murderers. A dwarf would never do anything like this to a fellow dwarf.
Is that so? Are there those amongst you who you call dwarf killers? A whole kingdom of them, and you claim that dwarves would never kill dwarves?
It's true. Mort spoke of this kingdom. Dwarves who kill dwarves. You lie! Seize them!
Watch out for the archers. Concentrate on the mercenaries, and try not to kill the villagers.
actually put up a fight! Huh? I'll be ready soon! What is it? What is it?
Huh? I can't do that yet.
Boindale! I could do with your axes over here! Who's next?
And again.
Too easy!
Vile creature. Kill.
Huh? Yes?
Yes?
What is it? Huh? Yes, yes!
Huh?
Yeah! Yeah! Ha ha!
Huh?
What is it?
On my way.
Of course! Too easy!
At once. Understood. On my way. Understood.
With you!
Yes?
And what now? I didn't hit you very hard. Yes?
And again.
Huh? On my way! All right, boys, go! Yeah!
Please wait a moment.
Yeah!
As the last of the mercenaries falls to the ground, the villagers stop attacking you and retreat. You and Boandal have to physically restrain Boindale until he comes to his senses. Otherwise, he would have followed them into their houses. You walk up to the body of the mercenaries' leader and search his pockets. You soon find something. A letter.
An anonymous client seeks dwarf skulls cleanly cut, shorn, and put into jars with honey. 1,000 gold coins will be paid for each skull. Khan, Bounty Hunters Guild Master.
That's bounty hunters hunting for dwarves. Despicable.
You hold the letter aloft so that everyone can see it.
Look, citizens of Clintel, proof that these men are the killers. They are bounty hunters hunting for dwarves.
The village elder comes out of one of the houses, flanked by other villagers. You ignore their weapons, as well as their sinister expressions, and hand over the letter.
It would seem you are telling the truth. We have been deceived and raised our weapons against the innocent.
The man's face is full of grief and pain.
And we have been made to pay. You have killed men who were close to us. Go now. We must bury them.
You manage to revenge Mort's death, but it doesn't feel like a victory. Too much blood has been spilt.